Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Coming to you from the living room, as I've been doing periodically for these past couple of weeks. I've been thinking a lot about continuing to improve ourselves, right? One thing that kind of got me started on this is there's this meme that's been floating around that says something to the effect of, if you don't come out of this quarantine with a new skill or a new hobby, or I think he said like new hustle or something, then it's not because you lack time, it's because you lacked discipline. And then of course you see a lot of people combating that, and saying basically it's okay to not be your best self or not accomplish anything while we're quarantined, because there's a lot of people that are basically afraid of what's going on, or there's some people that are really genuinely concerned about the health and safety of their family and stuff, and rightfully so. Basically what I've seen is this big schism between people that believe that you should be using every single free second you have to do something brand new and reinvent yourself as a person, and then people that are basically saying, well, it's okay if you're afraid of what's going on, it's okay to, and the way I interpret it is essentially accomplish nothing. So I view these as kind of polar opposites. So what I've been thinking about a lot is kind of getting back to the roots of what I deem for myself as self-improvement, is not necessarily revamping my entire lifestyle. It's not rebuilding myself every single day. It's what I search for is trying to find one thing that I can do to improve myself or enrich myself as a person, So it's whether it's sitting down for 5 minutes with a book, whether it's picking up the guitar for a few minutes, whether it's studying, martial arts, jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or whatever, or just engaging in a conversation with someone who, I have different views on. And especially right now, a lot of us are spending a ton more time on social media, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like this. And it's a really good time to work on our conversational skills, essentially our arguing skills as well, and trying to learn to be more patient and try to understand things from people's, from someone else's perspective. So I think one of the biggest problems is that when people look, or when people think about what it means to improve ourselves, is everybody says, well, you have to practice a skill for 1 hour a day. If you want to get better at guitar, you have to sit down with the guitar and practice for an hour a day. Now, right now, a lot of us are laid off. A lot of businesses are closed down. A lot of us do have free time to sit around the house. But a lot of people have families. A lot of people have, spouses, significant others, spending time, with their pets, and actually going outside and doing things. I know me, I live in an area where I can go outside and I can be completely isolated from the world. I can go down to the creek, I can go over to the park, and I can be completely alone, So sitting in the house an hour of a block of time to just focusing on one thing, regardless of the fact that we have the time, it is kind of daunting. And then it puts this pressure on ourselves to find, over structure our free time, right? So what I like to do is, just here and there, I decide, okay, I'm going to read for a little bit right now, and maybe read for 5 minutes, maybe read for 20 minutes. But a lot of times what happens is when I loosely structure that time, I'll pick up my guitar and say, I'm just going to, play around for 5 minutes. Next thing I know, it's 45 minutes later and it's playtime, but I can use all of these things to enrich myself. And no matter what I'm doing, I can find a way to increase the skill set. And it all falls under the umbrella of personal enrichment. If I'm getting better at a skill, if I'm increasing my knowledge base, if I'm reading something I normally wouldn't read, or even something I've read before, just refreshing my memory, studying different lifting techniques, whatever it is, if I do it even for 5 minutes a day, once a day, that falls under the umbrella of personal enrichment. I don't necessarily have to block off long portions of the day. I don't have to develop, like I said, I don't have to develop a side hustle. I don't have to completely reinvent myself. I don't have to try to figure out a way to make money right now. I can just I can just exist. But at the end of the day, I can still reflect back and say, okay, this is where I've gotten better. And for me, that's the biggest sense of normalcy I've been able to maintain. I've been slacking on my diet. I've been eating whatever the hell I want. I've really been enjoying it too, eating cookies and muffins and pizza and just shit food all the time, and it's been awesome, and my body actually feels pretty good because I've decreased the amount of physical activity I'm used to. Now, I know when I get back to the gym, I might not be exactly where I want to be, but I'm not holding myself to this impossibly high bar of maintaining this insane level of physical fitness. Obviously, we're not doing, if we're not doing jiu-jitsu every single day, our jiu-jitsu fitness is going to go down. If I'm not kickboxing every day, my kickboxing fitness is going to go down. But, just in here doing, pull-ups here and there, push-ups here and there, shadow boxing for a little bit, any of these things that I can do, even for 5 or 10 minutes at a time, again, falls under that umbrella of personal enrichment. Now, for those of us who are kind of afraid and feel that anxiety cropping up, I know a lot of my friends have been talking a lot about, how anxious and how, afraid they are, just not only about, for their own personal safety, but the safety of their friends, their family, the people who are working right now, healthcare workers, delivery workers, the people that are, kind of on the front lines interacting with the disease. And more empathetic people tend to put themselves in those people's shoes, and they get, people are getting anxious for those people, and they say, well, I'm not in a mindset where I can do all these new things. But I think for me, the biggest thing is when this is over, in another month or two, when this is all over and we look back, how are we going to reflect on and understand the passing of our time? Did we sit there in our house and binge drink and just pollute our minds with, terror-inducing media and panic? Or did we take this free time to, bond with our family? I have some good friends of mine. We get to talk, a little bit here and there once in a while, but I'm used to seeing them 3, 4, 5 times a week and spending time with them and their kids and stuff. And one of the things that I know that they've been doing is really just embracing the family time. And they're not immune to the anxious feelings and the nervousness and stuff, but they've been spending the time getting a lot of work done around the house. And then every day they've been able just to embrace that time of being together and doing things together, going for walks together. And again, because we live in a pretty isolated area from the world, we have access to some of these amenities that, people in the cities don't. But it's this kind of focused attention to what we do have, and putting an emphasis on embracing right now, working on developing bonds with our family, with our friends, with our loved ones, instead of just sitting there on the couch under your blanket and being terrified of what's going on. So I know a lot of this has been kind of repetitive, but I think again, the biggest thing is we can't let what we're afraid of paralyze us from still trying to find some small way to get better every day. I saw one guy was talking about, pick something and work on it every single day. Pick the same thing and work on it every single day. Build it, make it a habit. And I don't think, honestly, you even need to do that. He said, pick something that's simple, but not as simple as tying your shoes is the example that he used. And if you have the right mindset, if you go to throw on your shoes, if you make yourself untie and then retie your shoes every single time you take them on and off, that's a focal point of discipline. I know for me, most of my shoes are pre-tied. I just slip them on, maybe tighten up my running shoes once in a while, but other than that, everything's pretty much automatic. So for me, even tying my shoes would be a focus point of discipline. Something as simple as making your bed, which is one of my big focal points for my daily routine. Even through the quarantine and the hecticness of all this, I've been making my bed and keeping the house in some little bit of order, So it doesn't have to be, big, grandiose, life-changing habits that we're developing, but trying to find little tiny things that we can focus on, little bits of discipline that we can pick up daily and carry through this time. Because when we get to the end of it, when we get to the outside of it, this is kind of a microcosm of life. When we get to our death and we look back, what have we accomplished? So we can use this time right now to practice. We know we're going to get to the end of that. We're going to be able to look back. We're going to say, what have we accomplished? How do we conduct ourselves? How do we carry ourselves through this? And then from there, we have to keep going. So if we come out the end of this and we haven't done anything for the past 2 or 3 months or however long this lasts, and then we have to pick up from there, we're going to be way worse off than if we just said, okay, 5 minutes a day, 1 minute a day, I'm going to do one activity a day for whatever amount of time that's going to enrich me as a person. You can define that however you want. Again, for me, it's been reading, playing guitar, and just even shadow boxing, doing push-ups or studying some kind of martial art. It doesn't have to be an hour a day. Definitely doesn't have to be 5 hours a day. You don't have to reinvent yourself, but I suggest finding something, one small, tiny little thing every single day that at the end of the day you can say, okay, this is what I did today. This is how I enriched myself. Spent quality time with the family. We laughed. We had dinner together. We played games together. Something. But don't let this paralyze you. I put up a post a few weeks ago when this all started on my personal page talking about not living or we can't stop living our lives. We have to continue living our lives. And I got some pushback from people because at the beginning of all this, personally, I was very afraid of, I kind of catastrophized it. I built it up in my mind, but what could have been a police state. And you see this a little bit in, I just read an article about Maine. Some of the governor up there said that they were going to use the police force to monitor people, make sure people were following the quarantine measures and stuff. And then luckily the sheriff or the head of the police department up there came out and said, no, they're not going to do that. But that's the kind of thing that for me played out in my mind of, okay, well, they're going to start using National Guard. They're going to start using local police forces. They're going to keep everybody inside. So for me, I kind of panicked. And that was my response to that was, to make sure that everybody knows how important it is that we keep living our lives, within reason. Obviously we're not, I'm not going to the gym every day. I'm not coaching classes. I'm not engaging with people on a large scale like I'm used to and like I would want to. But continuing to live our lives can mean, again, finding some way to be productive every day, finding some way to improve ourselves, whatever that looks like. For me, I'm going to go outside and clean up the yard for a little bit again. But continuing to live your life is not necessarily doing every single thing the same every single day. Again, we're not going out to eat. We're not getting together with our friends. We're not partying or working out together or whatever, activities we do as groups. But that doesn't mean that we as people have to completely disconnect from everybody or that we have to lock ourselves up in the house and stop living our lives. We can still go outside. Again, listening to the professionals, staying away from people. We're not just going out to go out, making sure we're in an area that we're not going to run into a bunch of people, and being polite, keeping your distance in the stores and stuff like that. But we can still go get groceries. We can still just go for a drive. If you're the only one in your car, just go drive around, windows down a little bit, breathing in the air, experiencing life. But I still think it's very important that we continue living our lives and find, again, some little bit of discipline or some little bit of normalcy to help carry us through all of this. So thank you guys for tuning in. That's it. That's all I got for today. Something I've been thinking about a lot. And like I said, I know it's really repetitive, but I feel like it's very, it can be very simple if we let it be very simple. Define self-improvement for yourself. Give yourself a wide umbrella to find success in that self-improvement. Like I said, anything in your life that you would like to improve over time, this is the same exact philosophy that we can carry on through the end of this. So at the end of the pandemic, when we kind of start life again, right, we want to have some kind of habit, some kind of positive thing that we can carry forward. So let me know what you guys think, and I hope everybody out there is staying happy, healthy, mentally and physically, and I really look forward to seeing everybody again soon.